1.17, the biggest update to Minecraft since 2011, with dozens of game-changing features and new additions which the community has been wanting for years being added. Whether it be the new gigantic caves, the mountains which soar above the clouds, or the scary new underground mob the Warden, there's something in this update for everyone. But unlike Minecraft's previous updates, this update is different. It changes so much that the Minecraft we have now will forever be different. This is the update which is going to change some features of the game which have been untouched for over 10 years now. 1.17 is going to be the update that will change Minecraft forever. But is it good or bad? Well, let's find out. Now, before we get into it, I just want to say that things in this update are still likely to be changed. We didn't get all the details about features during Minecraft Live last week. As such, some of the predictions I make or mechanics I talk about could be wrong, but generally I don't try and make any bold predictions and stay within the realm of what we know. So let's get right to it. First and foremost, let's talk about what I and many other people think is the craziest thing to be introduced in this update. The SCULK sensor, the new block which detects vibrations. This means we now have wireless redstone, as not only does player movement and block movement such as trapdoors create vibrations, but it is able to be directed or blocked using wool blocks. You can see this example here, how wireless redstone is able to be used. So how will it impact the game? Well, there's a fine line between balanced and overpowered, and when things so groundbreaking such as wireless redstone are added, it begins to make me worry that Mojang are taking away some of the challenge from the game. Not only will many redstone contraptions become far more compact and easier to construct, but redstone will also become less creative and intricate. Mojang has a tendency to make things easier and less creative in updates. Let me give you an example from the past. Prior to 1.14, so in versions 1.13.2 and below, this is what a basic iron farm looked like. This iron farm is at the bottom of the tier list. It's the easiest to build and it's also the slowest, producing only 40 iron ingots per hour. Players of course didn't like that and wanted more iron, so complex iron farms were developed which could produce upwards of 5,000 iron ingots an hour. But with that phenomenal increase in resources also meant that the farm became much harder and required many more resources to build. It's a fair trade-off. Here is a 32 village iron farm, which can produce about 1,200 iron per hour, which is only around the middle level of difficulty of iron farms. But just look at the size and resource increase, it's very noticeable. But then, in 1.14, Mojang changed villager mechanics, and now this is an iron farm which can produce about 400 iron ingots per hour. Not only is it easier to build than that simple 1.13 iron farm, but it's 10 times more efficient. And this is an outdated version as well. There are newer versions which can produce upwards of 1,000 iron per hour, which aren't even that much more difficult to build. I hope you see the point I'm trying to make here. With the villager changes Mojang implemented, they made iron farms far less creative, far less skill-based, and far less challenging to build, giving players access to high amounts of iron really easily. This is what I'm worried will happen with the SCULK sensor. It will make previously resource-intensive, challenging, and difficult to build contraptions far easier and far more accessible to early game players. To make an iron farm which could produce 400 iron per hour in 1.13, you would need to be somewhat of a late game player, but now you could easily make this kind of iron farm in 1.14 within your first few days of playing. Now, the next feature I'm going to talk about is archaeology, but I feel like there's still a lot to be changed and implemented. But out of all of the new features in the update, I dislike this the most. But before we get into that, if you are enjoying the video, then consider subscribing. No pressure though, as you can always change your mind later. Anyways, with 1.13, Mojang have continued to add ways which new players can get valuable items such as diamonds without mining. 1.13 introduced shipwrecks and buried treasures. 1.14 introduced updated villages, increasing the amount of loot you could get from them, and then 1.16 added nether portal ruins, which have some decent loot at them. 1.17 continues this trend with archaeology. Now it's quite early and we don't know much about archaeology yet, aside from what we saw in the short clip we were given, but if I had to guess, then I would say that the archaeology brush would only require some feathers, sticks, and maybe string or an iron ingot. It's very easy to craft and definitely accessible early game. Now, why I dislike this feature is because it goes against the core of Minecraft, which is mining, a trend which Mojang has been pushing these last few updates. When 1.13 was released, the early game changed. Instead of going straight to a cave to find resources, you crafted a boat and were looking for shipwrecks or buried treasure. Now this is fine in moderation, it's good to have some variety, and it's enjoyable to go out and explore, but this much loot for new players shouldn't be as easily available, and looking at the clip, it seems you could potentially get an entire diamond block straight from it. I think that if Mojang is going to add more ways for early game players to get access to late game resources, then they should make it more challenging, like buried treasures, where you first have to find a map and then have to locate and dig up the treasure. Archaeology is not challenging, it is completely luck based and will be very grindy, and while it may look cool and interesting at first, I guarantee you that after doing it for 10 minutes straight, you will probably be so bored that you won't want to do it ever again. So now I want to talk about the Dripstone Caves and the Warden. First of all, Dripstone Caves and the stalagmites and stalactites. I like the idea, but looking at this footage just screams modded to me. It looks very un-Minecraft as they aren't really blocky or square-like, and the colours used are quite unusual to Minecraft as well. I think it's good they're adding things like this, but I also think that they should try and make it fit the theme of the game a bit more. But this one is definitely about personal preference, and I'm curious if you guys like it or not, so leave a comment down below. Anyways, the main issue I have is with the Warden, and how it's going to suffer from what I like to call the Minecraft effect. Think about the Warden like an iron golem. It does high damage and is very dangerous if it gets close to you, but also like an iron golem, it can be defeated easily using blocks. Like really easily. All you have to do is pillar up a few blocks high and then it won't even be able to hit you. This is what's going to happen to the Warden. It's going to become easy to kill. Now I think they could potentially fix this by giving it a ranged ability like the Evoker, which would make it far more challenging to kill. Now aside from how it functions, I think it also looks very un-Minecraft. Have a look at this movement here. Have you ever seen something move like that in vanilla Minecraft before? Even the Ender Dragon doesn't move like this. The Warden moves far too fluidly, more than any other Minecraft mob has before, and it just doesn't look like Minecraft to me. It reminds me of mods like Pixelmon. I think the idea of the Warden is great, as the game really lacks some dangerous cave mobs, but I just think that it isn't executed in the best way, and doesn't really seem to fit in with the theme of Minecraft. Now bundles are a new feature which seem to be really well received, and I don't think they're going to change the game by themselves, but I dislike the direction Mojang decided to go with inventory management. Basically, how bundles work is that they can only hold one stack of items, but can hold up to 64 unique items in them, which is meant to reduce the clutter in your inventory. While they look good at first, think about it like this. You decide to go on a big caving expedition. You don't have shulker boxes yet, so you bring a few bundles, as they look relatively easy to craft, probably only requiring leather and string. So you spend a few hours in the mine and accumulate a lot of resources, filling up your bundles with ores and other random junk. You then return to your base and spam the shift click button to empty your inventory of all that junk. But then you realize you also have all this loot in bundles still. And because you are lazy, just like 99.95% of Minecrafters out there, including myself, you just say stuff it and dump the bundles into another chest. And then more and more bundles accumulate over time. You see what the issue is now? Bundles are just an inventory extension. They basically add more squares to your inventory that can't hold as many items. They do not deal with the problem of inventory management, which many players have. In fact, they arguably will make it worse, as instead of sorting items, players are going to begin sorting bundles. Now, they aren't all bad. If they can be unloaded by a hopper, then they'll actually be quite useful for those who have a somewhat automatic sorting system. But aside from that, they don't really solve any problems, and I think Mojang is really going in the wrong direction with inventory management here. I hate to have a whole negative video, so let's talk about some of the new things being added, which are really good for the game. I absolutely love the new cave designs, and I am super excited to hear more information about mountains. The gigantic caves look stunning and incredibly interesting, and the new lush caves are also a feature which I've wanted for so long now, as I always tend to build bases in caves and make them look vibrant and alive with natural green blocks such as grass. I also think having some caves filled with water is a really nice change and would add even more variety when exploring. As for the mountains, well, who does not love them? They have been seriously neglected for such a long time now, and they are well deserving of a proper update, as previously they were bland, uninteresting, and didn't even get that high. If you look at the one image we currently have of mountains, then you can probably see two clouds. This is great news, as normally clouds are found at Y level 128, and current Minecraft mountains are normally below the clouds or just reach them, but that's rare. The fact that these two clouds are dwarfed by the new mountains means that the new mountains could potentially be upwards of Y level 160, which is absolutely insane to think about. Copper ore is of course very interesting, and I especially like the new game mechanic they added of the block aging over time, and the amethyst geodes look like they're going to be a very interesting feature. So as you can see, there's a lot I think is good, and a lot I look forward to in this update. I'm just very worried or concerned about certain things due to Mojang's past and the direction they are taking the game. Wireless redstone is going to be game changing, and Mojang will have to be really careful with it to prevent it from becoming overpowered. Archaeology is interesting, but I think Mojang are once again going the wrong way with the early game item access and should make it more challenging rather than grindy. The new dripstone caves with stalagmites and stalactites look considerably un-Minecraft, but I think they are really cool features. I think the Warden is awesome, but I dislike how fluidly it moves, and I also think that it will suffer from the Minecraft effect. And finally, bundles are not the way to go for inventory management, and I think they're actually quite a lazy addition from Mojang, but who knows, I could be completely wrong when the update actually comes out. But anyways, I hope you enjoyed the video. I'm very excited to see more information on Minecraft 1.17, and I'm sure you guys are as well. So be sure to subscribe, as there's a good chance I'll be talking about 1.17 again in the future. Leave a like if you enjoyed the video, and thank you all so much for watching.